and welcome to this next segment or installment of Frank and Mary here in Nantucket, the COVID-19 version. Allison Forsgren, my co-host, and I are doing a series of shows now. You know that the general purpose of the Frank and Mary shows was to introduce you to people that you may need to know and the programs you need to know about if you like Frank and Mary, want to live in your house until you die and you want to stay right here in Nantucket. Given this strange new world or current world of COVID-19, we really thought that you should be introduced to some information that is changing weekly and that is maybe very relevant to you to help you survive these really difficult times right now. So we've got a wonderful guest today, and Allison always kind of knows everybody, as many people who have seen this show know. I'm kind of more here for the comic relief. Allison finds all these great people that we talk to. And Allison, I think, is a person who I think has some really valuable information for everybody right now dealing with COVID-19. Allison?
Today, we have Grant Sanders, who I'm sure Arthur will extract more information from when he does his wash ashore business. But Grant has launched something since the crisis, the COVID-19 crisis started, that is a way to connect people who want to help to people who need help. And it's a great and evolving process. And we have Grant here with us to talk about that. So Grant, thank you so much for joining us. This is sort of a techie kind of episode. The last couple, I'm sure will have been, but if you could let us know a little bit about what it is you're doing, that'd be great.
Okay. Grant, could you start off with one of my jobs here is to make sure that people kind of know the backgrounds of who they're hearing about. I myself am not from Nantucket. I've become a Nantucket junkie, as many people know. But could you just kind of tell us a little bit about how you ended up being here? And how you ended up being interested in what you're doing right now, because I think from everything Allison's told me about this is a wonderful thing.
You bet. Well, I have lived on Nantucket since 1994. When my daughter was 6 months old, my wife and I, we lived in downtown Boston, and we were trying to decide after having kids which suburb of Boston we didn't want to move to, and then they found a body in the dumpster behind our building, and we said, you know, maybe Nantucket would be a good place to raise kids. Who knows? My wife was born here. She is a Fee. Her brother is Matt Fee, select board member, and her sister is Sydney Fee. And her brother, also her younger brother, Andrew, who lives in Georgia, but he used to live here on Nantucket. And I've raised two kids here with my wife. And during the early time on Nantucket, I started something called Yak On, which was a discussion group. Before there was Facebook, there was Yak On. It was the first sort of social media opportunity on Nantucket. I ran that until probably 2010 or 2012. I have a background in advertising. My work took me to Connecticut every week. And I was for over 10 years, I was commuting back and forth from Nantucket to Connecticut. And my wife is a kindergarten teacher here on Nantucket. She works for the Lighthouse School. So my experience here on the island goes way back.
That's a great summary. Well, by the way, that's why Allison makes me ask those questions, because inevitably we find, just like as you just did, this kind of there's a lot of reasons why you're here, and there's a lot of reasons why you really feel that you're kind of connected to the island.
Sure.
So now I wanted to go back to Allison, who can ask you about what you're doing right now.
Okay. Well, NantucketNeighbor.com came about when the COVID-19 situation started up, and I saw a lot of fear online on social media from a lot of people who were just worried about what was going to happen. And, I've had my fear gene removed after working in the ad business for 30 years. You just kind of become immune to fear. But I do know that people need something to do in a crisis. So what I wanted to do was start a network of volunteers. People, if they have something to do, they're going to feel less fearful. And also, there are people out there, people in high-risk groups, people with compromised immune systems, and people who are sick, who need help, and they're not necessarily looking for help from the police or from the hospital. They just need somebody to go pick up some groceries or walk their dog or pick up their mail. And so that's what Nantucket Neighbor is. It's a collection of over 120 volunteers at this point. And we are answering the calls for help. It probably is totaled around 18 or 19 at this point. We've done everything from shampooing a dog who was owned by someone who had a fever and couldn't take care of their dog. So we took them to the groomer, and now that dog is being fostered until our client is well enough to take the dog back. We have taken trash to the dump for someone. We have picked up people's mail. We have done grocery shopping. I personally did some grocery shopping for a family that was sick, and they really appreciated the help, and I really loved doing it. And a lot of people in that situation, they say, so let me give you some money for this. And my position is, I would much rather that those people, when they get well, they do a small kindness for someone else as a way to pay it forward.
That's great. That's wonderful. And so when you do something like go grocery shopping, the money doesn't come out of your own pocket. I mean, explain, because I wouldn't want people thinking of volunteering to be concerned that they'd be, buying people's groceries. So how does that part work?
Correct. So in many situations, we use Venmo. So if it's a large grocery bill, I try to step in and sort of be the intermediary and carry that cost until we get paid back. But generally speaking, here's how it works. Someone fills out a form on our website, and if it's to pick up groceries, then we find out if they have a list already and if they have Venmo, or if there's another way that they can pay for these groceries. Unfortunately, we can't provide free food for people, and we've had requests for things like rent assistance and fuel assistance, and it's just not something we're set up to do. But when we pick up groceries for someone, we get the list, we go do the shopping, we wear gloves, we wear a mask, we put the groceries where someone can pick them up, and we retreat to a safe distance. We text that person on the phone. They come out. We wave at each other I wave at them from the roadway, and they say thank you, and that's how the transaction ends, with them Venmoing the total.
So if someone needed help, what would they do to contact you? And and also, if someone wanted to volunteer, can you walk us through how people can avail themselves of this service?
Sure. Let me share my screen. Is that okay? And I'll show you how the site works. It's pretty simple. So you can see here, this is the Nantucket Neighbor homepage, and as you scroll down, there's a little explanation, and there's two main links. This one here, if you need help, you click on that, and if you're able-bodied and want to help, you click on that. So let's go to the if you're able-bodied and want to help, and walk through that real quick. When you click on that, you sign up to become a volunteer, and this sign up form pops up here. So we get your name, your email address, your phone number. There's some basic questions like, can you lift 50 to 100 pounds? Because we don't necessarily want to send somebody to move a tree who can't lift 50 pounds. And And then what kind of transportation do you have? In my case, I filled this out. I can lift 100 pounds, and I have a cool cargo bike at my disposal. So I put bike down. And some people just have their feet. They don't have a vehicle, and that's cool too. We accept volunteers of all shapes and sizes. And then we want to know if somebody has health issues, if they've had the sickness and gotten better, or if they are symptom-free and have not been sick. At some point, we expect that people who have had the sickness and have recovered are going to be really valuable as volunteers because of their immunity. And then where are you on the island? What time of day works for you? And then basically a statement that says if you agree to volunteer, and something happens, you're doing this at your own risk. It's something you do as a good neighbor. And then you click submit, and what happens is then you get added to the database. And we have a Slack group that you get signed into. And for people who have never used Slack before, it's a pretty simple way to get a lot of people thinking in the same direction. It's great for managing workflows, and I use it all the time for my work as in the ad business. So it's just a good way to manage big teams. And it's really simple to use. You can use it on your phone, you can use it on your laptop, and it's also web-based. So anybody can sign in, and anyone who signs up to be a volunteer on Nantucket Neighbor immediately gets a Slack invite. And then if they are having trouble getting in, I can help them get in and set up, and everything gets working really nicely. So let's.
Go ahead.
I was going to say.
And so once you get a request for help, what happens?
So I've set up this system. Let me just go back and say, I created this website. I created the forms, coded the forms. I integrated it with Slack. I also integrated it with MailChimp. This is something that I do in my business. So I created all this stuff so that it all works together and it's really streamlined. So when a request comes in, usually they'll fill out this form. I'm clicking on, do you need help? And the other nice thing about this site is it's translated in English and in Spanish. So you can access this Google Translate area here and see the site in Spanish. So they fill out a request. We get what they need help with, their name, their email address, their phone number, and their address. And then that comes into my phone or my laptop as an email. And we have other people on the system who act as dispatchers. Megan Boyce is one of them, and Beth. I'm trying to remember Beth's last name. Hold on a second. It's Beth Lloyd Thomas is also another person who is a dispatcher. So, basically we get these help requests that come in, and Beth or I or Megan will evaluate whether the help request needs more clarification. And then we'll put out a request. So here's one, new help request, older couple needing stamps from the post office delivered to their home. And then someone comes in and says, I can do that this Monday if needed. And that's how it gets resolved. Someone picks it up. We assign the task to someone, and then when they're done, they say mission accomplished, and we add it to, we check off that box.
Great. That's a very good explanation, and it sounds like a pretty efficient system as well.
Yes.
So what are some other things that the volunteers are prepared to do? I'm just wondering what the asks could be aside from grocery shopping and dog walking. What do you expect might like you mentioned, a log.
Yeah, it could be basically anything. You know, if there's a storm and a tree falls down, we have over 30 volunteers with pickup trucks, and we have over half of our volunteers can lift between 50 and 100 pounds. So if a tree falls, we can come with our chainsaws and cut it up and take it away. If somebody's, you know, nobody really needs their grass mowed right now. But maybe in the future, if somebody is sick and they can't get out and mow their lawn, we could come by and take care of that. Basically, anything that does not involve the kind of aid that an NGO would provide or that the government would provide, we can sort of fill in the gaps. I anticipate that at some point, some of the other NGOs like the Interfaith Council and, you know, they do Meals on Wheels or the food pantry, will need more volunteers. People are going to get sick. People are going to be out of commission. And so we've already put it out to our volunteers that if they are looking for an outlet or looking for something to do, they can call up those organizations and talk to them and volunteer there.
Wow, that's great outreach that you're doing, because there are always a lot of people who want to help on Nantucket, and finding ways to utilize them, I think, needs to be streamlined and used. So it sounds like a really great program. I'd like to see, and you know, sometimes as a volunteer, you really want to do something. So I hope people use the system. I hope you start getting requests and can utilize, you know, some of the people that have stepped up to do the volunteering.
Yeah, I think what's it's so wonderful watching this, because I'm just saying to myself, you know, as Allison suggests, there's often a lot of folks that are willing to volunteer, but the question is doing that kind of management of people in order to allow the right people to get to all of those places. And I think that's the wonderfulness of this, right? Is that it's just connecting people up in a really efficient way, right? And giving people, as you say, Allison, people who really want to do something, you know, the ability to do that, and giving folks who might not be wanting to call, well, for example, they're thinking, so am I going to call the Interfaith Council because I need some stamps, you know? But they may be willing to do this, you know, to be saying, you know, this is something that I just need I need kind of right away. And it's not a government entity, and it's not a big charity, you know? So I think it's just really appealing. And this notion of saying to all of your volunteers that what you really want to be telling people is, if, you know, in return to this, if you ever can, you know, help out somebody else or be another volunteer, that's great. So Allison, I think this is terrific, right? I think this is really valuable information. I gather you're still looking for volunteers as well as looking for people who may have things that really need to get done. Am I right?
Correct. You know, we have a lot of volunteers, but not everybody is online all at the same time. And, you know, we can utilize as many people as want to sign up. It's fine with us. And then if anyone needs help, we're ready to spring into action.
That's really great. That's wonderful. Well, I hope that this show will spark some people who could both use some help for small things that they are either not strong enough or not well enough to do, and also maybe bring some more people on board to help. Now, the one question that a lot of our viewers have are the technology parts. So if they can get on nantucketneighbor.com, that's a place for them to start. And from that point forward, there's tech support available?
You bet. I'll help anyone who needs to access the technology. I'm ready to help.
Great. Well, Grant, Arthur, do you have any other questions?
I was just going to say, so for people like me who are really bad on the technology, is there actually a phone number I can call?
No, and the funny thing is, like many people on Nantucket, we have a landline that we never answer because it's always robocalls. So the best way to, if you don't have internet access, is to talk to a friend who does, and to get an email to help@nantucketneighbor.com, and then I'll figure it out from there.
Great.
Great. Well, another show in the can, Arthur.
Allison, thank you very much for this. Thank you very, very much for coming on the show, Graham. This is just really, it's a wonderful service. It is one of the things that Allison and I keep on bumping into and talking about, is that how this terrible, ongoing rolling tragedy of the pandemic is in many ways having these great knockoff effects in terms of really causing an increasing involvement in community and sense of community. And that's a wonderful thing. So maybe at the end of the day, you would come out stronger, we come out better, and that certainly seems to be the case in Nantucket. So thank you very much. Allison, thank you very much for finding these great people all the time. And thanks to the folks at Nantucket Cable for doing these shows, and we'll look forward to seeing you on the next installment of Frank and Mary in Nantucket COVID-19 version. Thank you very much.